Okay, Boker Tov, and a good day to folks in Eretz HaKodesh. So, where are we today? 29 Teves, Hayom Yom. We are day workers. Poiloi de Yamama is the language in Aramaic. Poiloi de Yamama, day workers. Day means light. Our work is to illuminate, to enlighten the world with the light of the Torah. That's what we get up for. Besides the necessity of maintaining our own selves properly with God's help, being what we ought to be, our whole avoida is to be privileged to develop Talmidim, students, pupils, who are firmly based people, devoted with heart and mind to the inner kavana, the intention or purpose of our existence. Not to any kavana, but to the kavana, the godly intention that God has created us for. Our pupils must know that it is not sufficient to study the revealed Torah and to cherish the sacred by observing mitzvahs. There must also be avodah shebalev, the service of the heart, davening. And it says that davening, heart tzedikah davening, is davening, as we've spoken about earlier, with fire, with flame. And there's an expression in Chassidus that fire gives light. Wherever there's light, light draws people toward it. Light illuminates and draws people toward it. So our fire has to be lit. So back to the Tanya to help us figure out, or not figure out, but understand the ways in which we can literally illuminate ourselves. So we are beginning a new chapter. Chapter 18, page 46 in the classical Tanya, and actually begins, the words begin on top of page 248 in Lessons in Tanya. Okay, here we go. Well, the Teves bir beheitev milas ma'oid. To explain the word ma'oid, korav alecha hadaba ma'oid, right? As we said, the thing is very close to you, la'soisoi, to do. The pasuk, korav alecha hadaba ma'oid. Sorak lo yoda, nemona, a person has to know with certainty, ki af misha daite katsora biyadiyas Hashem, that even a person who is not so heavy, is literally, his mind is light in terms of grasping and knowledge and awareness of Hashem consciously. And the person doesn't have a heart to understand something about the greatness of Hashem to such an extent that it will to catch the fire, so to speak, enlighten the person, illuminate the person with love and fear of God. That we talked about for the last few days, the tavuna doesn't even have that level to bring it up to some degree of consciousness. The tavunasa, into his understanding levad. If levad means even if you can't get it to your heart, we've been speaking about in the past that there is this level of tavuna, that a person where the midos are included in one's thought, and a person can grasp that, if not flaming oneself to a great fire in the heart. But here we're speaking of a person who can't reach that level. Nevertheless, nevertheless, it says to all of us. It's close to every one of us. Very much to do this. Lishma ulasos, to guard and to do. Lishma is, of course, the negative commandments, and lasos is the positive commandments. Kol mitzvos Torah. It's within the ability of every single person to do this, regardless and in spite of the lack of being able to bring it, the love of God or the fear of God, those root midos to consciousness. A person still has the ability, everyone, to do the mitzvahs, kol ha-mitzvos Torah, the Talmud Torah keneged kulam. And as the Mishnah tells us, not the Mishnah, the Chazal tell us that Talmud Torah is keneged kulam. Why is Talmud Torah weighed against and the top of the heap, so to speak? Because the sages discussed which is greater, Torah and mitzvahs, and they concluded this, the Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, because it brings to mitzvahs. So the mitzvahs is the ikar, ma'asahu ha'ikar, but you aren't going to do mitzvahs if at least at the simplest level, you don't know what to do. So Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, the feeble of all, a person can learn Torah and bring Torah into one's mouth and into one's heart, mamish, me'umka deliba, into the depths of one's heart, in truth, lamitoy, in truth of truths. Why? Through and aroused with that, simply by doing, learning and doing. Why is that? Why will that bring to a love and a fear or awe? Because there is a concealed love in the heart of every person. There is a concealed love in the heart of every person, of every Jewish person, which is an inheritance to us from our fathers and from our mothers, from the avos and the imos. So to understand this and to have more realization of this and the power of this, that the root midos are rooted in the hidden reaches of our heart. So let's first preface, let's explain well. The shoresh of Avazu, the root of this Ava, which is in the Ava Misoteres, the hidden love in the heart of every Jewish person. And again, love is just, he's mentioning the root midah, which is Hesed, and then all the other 6 meters as well. So Ava, and at least the root 3, because we have 3 Avos, right? Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and their wives. These are the root midos that are given to us. And let's understand the shortest of that, the root of that, and in the topic of that, how is that an inheritance to us? And how is it that this includes love and the other root midos? The Indian is this. So because these are fathers and mothers, so it's a simple moshel, right? The child inherits the DNA of the parent. So the Indian is this. So what's the DNA of our parents, of our progenitors, the fathers and the mothers? They were a markava. They were literally a chariot to Hashem. The word chariot, it means to imply, as explained in other places, that the chariot has no will of its own, only the will of the rider. These were folks whose entire being had no sense of existence except their awareness and inclusion with and given overness to the one who's driving the chariot, which is Hashem. So they're called a Merkava, a chariot. Therefore, and therefore, they merited to draw this and bring this down, to draw this nefesh, ruach, and neshama, again, the 3 parts of the soul that are panemius, embedded in the body, of all of their children. This is the spiritual DNA, so to speak, that all of us have inherited. The ability, a natural ability, pre-conscious ability, that is even before we bring it to consciousness, through learning and contemplation, etc., etc. This is a pre-conscious ability that's rooted in the root of every soul, to all of us, ad olam, forever. And what did they give us? What is this thing, this quality that they give us? These are the quality of the illuminations, the energies of the 10 spirits, of the 10 Holy Spirits, Sheba Arba Olamis, of the 4 worlds of Atzilus, Bria, Yitzir, and Asir. That connection to the energies of godliness, of Elokus, responsible for the 4 worlds, is given l'chol echad, to each and every person. Kol echad ve'echad, kifim edegasa, each one gets it on his level. Ugefim masav, and each one exemplifies it in terms of in one's deeds. Vel kol ponim, and even afilu kal shebakalim, upoishe Yisrael, one who is a very light observer of Torah and mitzvahs, and even one who's a sinner. Just the fact that you're Jewish, you've inherited this. We've inherited this. Because from the Avois and their connection with Hashem, and their complete given overness to Hashem, and their infusion of godliness, which is the creative force of all the worlds, that's nimshach, that's drawn down, bezivum, nefesh de malchus de asiyah, in the act of copulation, in the act of creation. Every person who comes out of that, their soul, the lowest levels of the soul, the nefesh of nefesh, we have a soul, right? And it has levels. So even the levels of the lowest levels of the soul, every person inherits a soul, the nefesh de malchus de asiyah. Every person inherits a soul which comes from, in the lowest case, from malchus of asiyah, from the lowest level of giving forth, which is malchus of the lowest world. Kedushas Hasiyah, which is the lowest level of the holy side of the world of Asiyah. Every single Jew inherits that, or that's the touch point for every single Jew. And Malchus of Asiyah, of course, is related to Malchus of all the upper worlds. And Malchus of the upper worlds is ultimately associated with what's called Malchus of Ein Sof. And therefore, the Ein Sof itself, as we'll say soon, the Ein Sof itself, the infinite one himself, is embedded in every body, no matter who the person, no matter who the Jew is, some more or less exposed, some more or less concealed. But it's there. Nevertheless, even though a soul may be a low soul and embodied, as we said, even in a sinner, since this level of Malchus of Asiyah is part of the 10 spheres, of holy spheres, who kalulam mekulam, and that's encompasses everything. Gam mechochma d'asiyah, right? That if you're getting from Malchus of Asiyah, and this gets back to the principle that of inter-inclusion that we said about in Tabuna, when we talked about Tabuna, that midos can be included in moichin, that's Tabuna, and here all the midos inter-include each other. So that's, that's 10 times 10. So each and every person is, though let's say the proximate point of entry or the proximate character of the soul is from a low level, Malchus of Asiyah, the lowest of the worlds. That Malchus of Asiyah contains also Chochmah, the Asiyah, Chochmah of Asiyah, Shebetecha, which within the Chochmah of Asiyah is Milbeshes Chochmah de Malchus de Atzilus, is embedded the Chochmah of Malchus of Atzilus. Shebetecha, which in the Chochmah of Malchus of Atzilus is the Chochmah of Atzilus, not just Malchus of Atzilus, but the Chochmah of Atzilus, Sheba Meir or Ein Sof Baruch Hu, which in Chochmah of Atzilus there shines, there radiates, illuminates the light of the Infinite One, blessed be He, or the infinite light from the one who is the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Well, I said that there's two ways of saying or Ein Sof Baruch Hu. If you just look at it on the page, the infinite light, may it be blessed. It's the light which is we're talking about here, not Hashem in blood. But sometimes it's spoken about the Or Ein Sof Baruch Hu, that the Or Ein Sof itself is it's either a light which is infinite, or it's a light which is coming from that which we call the Ein Sof. Either way, but more correctly, it's the light which comes from the Ein Sof. It's an odor. It's a light which comes from the Ein Sof. But the point being, that's infused into Chochmah of Atzilus. Chochmah Atzilus brings it down to the lowest levels of Lobik on the principle of Hiskalolus, inter-inclusion. Because you can see, it's written, Hashem b'Chochmah Yisod Oretz. It's written in Pasuk in Koheles. It says Hashem b'Chochmah Yisod Oretz. Hashem with wisdom creates the foundation, puts the world on the foundation. Now the simple meaning of that is he created things wisely. But the panemius meaning of that is Chochmah itself is embedded in the Oretz, in the earth. The Kulim b'Chochmah Sisa, another pasuk, which simply speaking means all of them he made wisely. But again, the panemius, Kulim b'Chochmah Sisa, even the level of Asiyah, the lowest levels, has embedded in it the Chochmah of Atzilus, which has embedded in it the Or, which is Ein Sof. So it comes out from all of this, Nimsa. The Chochmah of the light of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, which is enclosed in the Chochmah of the soul of every person, whoever that person is from Yisrael amongst the Jewish people, and the level of Chochmah of the soul, with the light of the infinite or the infinite light, which is enclosed in it, that's mispashetus b'chol b'chinas nefesh, that flows into all the categories of the soul, kula, entirely, to enliven the soul from the top to bottom, from head to toe. Could conceive, as it's written, a chokmah tichya. It says that chokmah enlivens, chokmah tichya baila, that chokmah enlivens those who possess it. Well, by the way, I made a mistake. That the previous Kasiv was not from Koheles; it was from Mishlei. This one is from Koheles. That Chochmah enlivens those who possess it. Chochmah tichya baila. Well, sometimes, interesting little bracket which ends today's Tanya. Sometimes, mamshichim poishe Yisrael neshamas gavoyas. Sometimes, very very low folks. Poisha Yisrael, sinners amongst the Jewish people, they can draw down a very, very high soul, ma'oid, very much. Shehu ba'amke ha-klippas, a soul which is, a low soul which is embedded in the depths of the klippas. They can draw down a very high soul. As is written in the results, Sefer Gilgulim. And there's an interesting note, those who have lessons in Tanya, I read it this morning. Very interesting note. How does this work? So he tells us, it's a nice long paragraph in Lesson in Tanya, that the klippas are they want power, and they suck power, and normally they suck it sort of like a black hole. It's not a bad muscle, really. The Rebbe told us over and over again how science is, the more we learn, the closer we get to, the more we unearth in scientific, the more we have more masholim, more mushals for what goes on in Kedusha. So, and this is one, a black hole sucks all the light into the darkness, right? And it doesn't release it. And it spies, this is the lesson in Tanya. He doesn't talk about the black hole. He says the klippas want to maintain their strength and suck everything into them. And when it sees a high soul, it says, wow, with this energy, if I could suck this energy into me, I'd be even more powerful. But hopefully and ultimately they get fooled, because the power of the high soul works on the klippas and either destroys them, flattens them out, or ultimately transforms them. But in any case, you should know that sometimes someone walking around who's a Poishe Yisrael could be containing a very, very high soul, and we got to reach out.
Doesn't it mean that a simple person could have a child who's a tzaddik?
Yeah. The offspring could be a tzaddik, exactly. That would be the realization. Is that correct? All right. Any questions? Any comments? Ubechein?
I think this is a really good basis for Ahavas Yisrael.
You bet it is. Very good. Yep. Because this is when it gets tough. Ahavas Yisrael is tough, right? When you confront someone who's just someone you'd rather not confront. And that's where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. All right, so let's take that with us, our marching orders for today, that those parts of ourselves which are stubbornly resisting, we have a Teves, a love, a natural love in our soul. It's capable of bringing them back, and then on the more external level, to do the same. And it resonates totally with our Yom. Gives us the Ava Misateris. If there's nothing else, we at least have the Ava Misateris to empower us to do what the Yom told us to do, to be a light and to bring and illuminate the light that brings the moth to the candle, so to speak. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Give me a session.
Thank you very much. Chodesh Tov.
Wonderful. I go again.
Thank you.